Hey, everybody. Happy New Year and welcome back to Quantum Portals. Welcome back to the Starseeds and Lightworkers Collective. My name is Crystal, and I am so happy to have you here with us this evening. This is marking our first show of 2026, and I just know that this year is going to be absolutely smashing. And we have so many good guests coming up this year, and we have a lot going on, and discussion groups, and we have a meet and greet coming up in Toronto in May. So if you guys are in Toronto or if you're going to be flying over Toronto, check us out. We're going to have a meet and greet. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you there. But for tonight, we have a returning guest. We have Miss Jessie Desmond, who is one of my favorites. And she is presenting us tonight a topic that even though it hasn't really, it doesn't sort of, let's say, compete with the pyramids and other types of stuff. I find that Alaska is a very mysterious place. And our next guest, Jessie Desmond, lives in Alaska. And she is right there on the front doorstep of all that weirdness and all that stuff that's going on. And I think that it is important to look at this because, as I've always said, and I said it a lot last year, I think this year is going to be the year of disclosure. A lot of stuff is going to be happening. And I think that exploring these types of topics are important in order to prepare us. And before we continue, I just wanted to just say, give like a tribute to Mr. Eric von Daniken. He passed away. He passed away on January 10th, and I only found out about it today. So I just want to say it's a shame because I really liked his book and books, and he was really behind the ancient alien theory, and he really started all of this for all of us. He's really the father of all of this. So it's a shame that he passed away, but he leaves an important legacy that we can all follow and all contribute to in the years to come. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Jessie Desmond. She is an author and a researcher. She is the author of the book Saucers of the North, which talks about saucers and UFOs that are seen in Alaska. And Alaska has a very, very large amount of UFOs that are seen every year. And it's also home to the Alaska Triangle. So I know she's going to be talking to us about that. So without further ado, Jessie Desmond, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me. And I hadn't heard that about Eric von Daniken, so that's kind of news to me. That's surprising.
It's very
Um,
sad. It's very sad because he really started all of this for all of us, and without him, we wouldn't be here. So it's big, big thank you to him. You know.
yeah, I've actually I found a bunch of like native lore from up here about UFOs. Anyway, that's not really what we're talking about today. Um, we're talking today about the Alaska Pyramid, and I'm hoping that most people have some sort of basic idea about this. In 2012, uh, Linda Moulton Howe had this interview with a former soldier who had seen something in the news about some sort of underground pyramid in Alaska. And then she had a bunch of other interviews after that regarding the same sort of thing from various people. And so, uh, okay, so sorry, I'm like, I've prepared, but I sometimes, you get ahead of yourself. So,
So basically,
so
Linda Moulton Howe and well, I think Linda Moulton Howe, if I can just sort of get her here on the screen so that we can all see her. But Linda Moulton Howe is a researcher. And just to sort of give a little bit of background for some people, can you just sort of give us a little bit of a history? Because I think this starts with Doug Muchler. I think it started in '89 when he started working in Alaska. And then I think he
he
was the one
he
that
was the
contacted
first.
her, no?
Yeah, he was the first interview that she had,
Hmm.
um, and that interview took place in 2012.
Hmm.
But yeah, I believe he was working. It was like '89, um, down at what is now Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson, and I think he was.
Yeah, the Doug Muchler. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say he was at Fort Richardson, but it could have been Elmendorf.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're both right next to each other.
Hmm.
They're right there, right outside of Anchorage. Um, and he saw this thing on the news about like an underground nuclear test going on in Lopnor, China,
Hmm.
and they caught they caught it on their
Yeah.
radiographs or something
Yeah.
here in Alaska,
Hmm.
and then they were like, "What is this thing that's under the ground
Hmm.
out here?" Um, and so what one of the consistent things about this pyramid is that from uh, I'm probably going to say this wrong.
Okay.
I always do. It's Unalakleet. It's like 250 miles west, or in the west direction, or no, sorry, east. I'm going backwards. East from Unalakleet. Um, and so what most people do is they draw a straight line east, and they go, "Hey, that hits Denali, or right outside of Denali, and so it must be right over there." And I disagree with that. I'm not disagreeing with the distance. I'm not disagreeing with the east portion. I just think it's not at Denali where they say it is.
Well, let's sort of, if because I'm going to sort of be jumping in and out of here. And the
Okay.
thing is that when you do the research, and there's a lot of, like there's different sort of aspects of what's going on because when I was doing my research about the topic, I heard that it was okay near Mount Hayes, which is one of the biggest mountains in Alaska, and then it was okay no, but it's near Mount McKinley, which is now called Mount Denali, and it's in the Mount Denali National Park, and that the underground base is there. So, and it's about the pyramid. The pyramid is supposed to be found there. Now, one of the things that was interesting about that, I think it was May of 1992 that China did that nuclear explosion test, and it's true. It's caught by seismologists, and the seismologists were able to see that there was a pyramid underneath, but if you're saying it's not in Mount McKinley or Mount Denali or Mount Hayes, where exactly would you say this pyramid is? Because as we're going into this topic, we're going to hear that there's different people with different ideas of where it is.
That's exactly what I'm going to show you in my presentation.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
I have maps. I have all kinds of stuff because I was okay. So I was working with a group of people, and we were like, "Let's go out and find this place. Let's see if we can do boots on the ground stuff." And one of one of the people that I was working with, he has a small airplane. He's a pilot, and he's a small airplane mechanic, and he does a lot of tours. So we every time we were going to fly out, the weather just wasn't good, and he said, "No, we can't do it." And so, but he found like a good day to grab one of the people that lived close to him, and they kind of flew out over the area, and everything in the area just outside of Denali, um, where this thing would be, it's like pretty flat for the most part, and it's kind of like that tundra swampiness. Do you know what I'm talking about? Um, I mean, if you guys are familiar with like
I didn't know there
Northwest
were swamps
Territories
there.
or Yukon territories, it's like this tundra swampiness.
Okay, I didn't know they had swamps out there. Okay,
Yeah.
like
There's like a lot of I don't know what people would call it. It's just like a lot of brush. It's like blueberries and and almost like a muskeg kind of a thing,
okay.
but it's just like brush, and you you don't you don't really want to be walking around out there. if that makes any sense. Um, and anyway, it also didn't fit with any of the interviews that Linda Moulton Howe was having. So, uh, so what I did for my process here is I looked at all the interviews, and I was like, what information can I obtain from all these interviews about people who have been to the site? Um, and that's where I've gathered all my information. So, can I share my screen and get started going through stuff? Because it this will I will totally explain myself with the presentation.
Sounds good. Sounds great. So
Okay.
go ahead. So while she's doing that, we're going to just, let me know what you think, guys. Is there anybody out there from Alaska who's watching this tonight? If there's anybody out there who's from Alaska, that would be great. And if you have any questions, just to let you know, tonight we are going to be doing questions in the chat, and from now until 9 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to open the phone lines, and you can call in with some of your questions. So that'll be fun. So I will let you take it over, Jessie. Go ahead.
Okay. So, all right. So this is a picture of Linda Moulton Howe, and I have a whole list of all of her different interviews that you can find at Earth Files, which is her website. And she does a lot of background checking on everyone that she has an interview with. So she also includes that in with these interviews if you guys ever want to check it out. Um, she does a lot of her research. She's an award-winning journalist for a reason. All right, so out of all those interviews, I was able to isolate that there's this Western Electric employee who went to this pyramid to work there, right? So, looking into Western Electric was under contract for the White Alice Communication System, which is WAX, and the BMUS site, which is it was Clear Air Force Station for a while, and now uh, it's Space Force, Clear Space Force Base. And BMU stands for Ballistic Missile Early Warning System. So uh, those all kind of stem out of post World War II military moves. So that's we have that tie. Western Electric was used by the military to work on their electrical system. The pyramid is supposed to be underground, uh, indicating that there would be really nothing noticed from above. I was told that the top looked a little bit like an old mining shaft. And yeah, and the Western Electric employees said that they worked 700 feet underground. There was a lot of energy distribution, alien technology, and some sort of alien biology work that gets mentioned in the interviews. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Uh, the Western Electric employee's son, who's the one who actually talked to Linda Moulton Howe, uh, stated that his father was recruited by the military and always thought that it was some sort of military installation. So I'll get to that in a second. And from Unalakleet, uh, the Western Electric employee said that they started there and they went east and northeast for about around 6 hours. And then there was another interview where these two guys left in a helicopter from Unalakleet and they went 2 hours east. And they said it was about 250 miles. And that was in 1978 for that trip. So we have like a rough distance and a rough time, neither one of these uh, mentioned crossing the Yukon River, and that's going to be important. And I'll show you when I show a map. Also, in the interviews, there's mention of a small airstrip that could handle cargo planes, and there was also uh, patrol slash attack dogs, 50 caliber machine guns mounted on jeeps, a concrete blockhouse, small tank farms, a motor pool. Uh, there was a top of a mine elevator with a light tower and electrical fences with some razor wire and posted signs, garages for vehicles, at least one snowcat, and a bunch of other vehicles. So, what that tells me is there's definite infrastructure and there's people living there, and there's not just people, there's dogs. Um, and all this will come totally into play when I think I've nailed where this place is. Um, okay, and so inside the pyramid, um, it's supposed to be 700 feet from the top to the bottom using a mine elevator. There's a work area, there are control rooms, there are bunk areas, cement hallways, and there's some sort of electronic control room. And let's see here. And also from Pearson, who I've noted on, like, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not.
Yeah, we
Uh,
see it.
okay, right here I have Pearson. That's just the person that was being interviewed. There was a 5 mile radius where it was VFR. So you have to, it's it's like you have to use visual line of sight to land, because there's disruption.
If I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, the VFR stands for visual flight reference, I think, right? Where you have to
Yeah,
turn
yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
I just
exactly.
have it written down.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you have to use your vision to actually land the plane. And then there was one interview with a guy named Bill, and he said that it was near Gates of the Arctic National Park. So that is up at the top of the state, and that's quite a ways away from Denali. So okay, so let me get to this next slide. Okay, so most people, you'll see that I have these lines out here. Most people think that the pyramid is somewhere where the pink lines are, kind of in that area, because that is over by, right here is Denali National Park, right? Mount
Actually,
Hayes would be over
we just got corrected. VFR means visual flight rules. Thank you, Lawrence.
there.
Sorry.
Okay. So most people think it'd be right over here, um, just because like that's most people tie it to Denali National Park. Um, I went a little bit lower to see where that was, and I went a little higher and a little higher, and I put a box around where I live. So I live in Fairbanks. Okay, so and each of those lines are 250 miles from Unalakleet. Okay, so this right here is a map of the White Alice communication system, which is marked in blue, and then I have one for the BMUS system, which is green. And let's see here. Okay, so according to the Western Electric uh, person, uh, I forget the guy's name. Uh, they were contracted by the military, and if the military is going to cover something up, then they're going to put something there because that's how you tuck money away. Um, and then also in the interviews, there's mention of two converging rivers and that there was high ground. So I started looking at what sort of military facilities uh, were in this area, this 250-mile uh, distance that had two converging rivers and high ground. And there was only two. There was Bear Creek and Indian Mountain, and these are Air Force stations, right? So, in order to get to Bear Creek, you could go around the Yukon River, which this right here, this big thing right here is the Yukon River. Up here, there's Indian Mountain, and it's almost a straight shot. They're both east, and they are both northeast at the same time.
Can I just ask a quick question here?
Yeah.
Would you say that the pyramid, and I mean, we're going to sort of like, try to figure out where it is exactly, and I think that you've probably hit it, but is there any way that it's in the Alaska Triangle? Because I've heard a lot of things about the Alaska Triangle. Is there any sort of credence for that at all? Because it just seems that the Alaska Triangle has a lot going on. There's a lot of different types of people say that it's there because that's where some of the because maybe the pyramid is leeching off a lot of energy and maybe creating a portal. I don't know if that sort of
Uh,
like
this this would be pretty close to it.
yeah.
Um, I think technically it's a little outside of it,
Okay.
but the what you have to remember about the Alaska Triangle is that the Alaska Triangle kind of goes from like Barrow down to Anchorage, over to Juneau, and kind of back up. And that's where the majority of the population of Alaska lives. So that's where the majority of weird stuff is going to happen because that's where the majority of the eyes are.
Okay.
And you know, like here's a weird thing. This this bright spot right there, that's one of our sand dunes up here.
Okay.
And most people have no idea that we have sand dunes. So anyway,
Okay.
I know that's really off topic, but um, yeah. So going back to this, I located these two spots. Um, I have the distance down here. Indian Mountains, 257 miles away, and Bear Creek is 271. So this is Bear Creek. It's right out of Tanana. And this is really flat. It's really flat. It's right on the river, on the Yukon River. Um, there is a smaller river that kind of goes near it, but I decided that that was probably not it. I know a lot of people from Tanana, and they just don't talk about it. You know, if you get people who from little areas who might go out and work on something, they're going to start talking. So I decided that it's probably this Indian mountain place. And I know that this is kind of hard to see. I'm sorry. But I do have closer up photos. This does have a landing strip that can handle cargo planes. And it does have the convergence of two rivers. It has Indian River and Utopia Creek. Um, and there's a lot of elevation. So let me go to the next one and I will run through this. Okay, so here's a landing strip as it is. When is this? The satellite photos from 23. So a lot of infrastructure has been removed.
Can
But
I ask a quick question because it's interesting. We're talking about how the pyramid might be in a different place, and you're presenting information about what it is. So does that mean that there's a disinformation aspect of this? Because if that's the case, and I mean maybe some of the stories that are coming out are disinformation. They're specifically trying to move people away from the actual site, which is what you're presenting, and maybe they're trying to sort of say that it's either Mount Hayes or Mount Denali. What do you think of that?
I don't know if it's really disinformation. I think people are just not looking at all the facts that are being presented. I mean, the information is there in the interviews.
Okay.
That's how I figured all this out.
Okay.
Um, and so my day job, I'm an accountant for a construction firm, and And one of the things that I've learned as a historian is that you should always follow the money. And in this case, I hear about uh, infrastructure and dogs and people uh, and artillery, and all this kind of stuff. And that means big overhead with payroll, and that means maintenance fees, and that means uh, you need like fuel being delivered. And I don't know if they have a well or there are things that people need uh, to be delivered for something like this. And so that means you have to have something that the military could control that most people can't just land on. And so this place, Indian River, is a secured site. And so you have to have permission to land by the military. And that makes sense to me. So here's a landing strip. We're going to follow this road up, and it goes up. And I thought this was pretty interesting. This area right here um, looks it looks like it could have been an area where that was mined and that was cleaned up. And I have kind of like an unofficial report from someone who was in the military around 89 or 90, who said that they went out to the site. They knew that the pyramid was there, and they cleaned it up and they scrubbed it as much as they could. Um, and they took a lot of stuff out. So I think this might be part of like where they cleaned stuff up. This also kind of looks like something, and I'm not sure what. You can only get so close on Google Earth.
Okay,
And
and are
it's
people able to access these areas, or do you need to
only if
have?
you're military.
Sorry.
Only if, only if you're military. This is an active military site.
Oh, okay. So, so in that case, if they are hiding something there, it'll be hard to get to because of the military. They're patrolling the area. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I mean, this is a very limited military site at this point. They only have one dome here and some sort of outbuilding over here. Uh, this would be a tower, like a radio tower, and some sort of outbuilding right here. Um, so there's still some infrastructure there, but there's not a lot that we see. But there used to be a lot of infrastructure. Okay, so this is a website. If anyone wants to go look at site rosters, photos, documents, and whatever else, go to raydomes.org/museum and then look for Indian Mountain. And this will give you a lot of historical information if anyone wants to take a look at it. It's it's really an interesting site. So especially because they have that site roster with like former employees and stuff. So this is uh, this is a kind of an overview of the runway here. Um, just have like a AC and WS. That's was it aircraft warning system, or I forgot the AC and WS means. WS is warning system, but I forgot the other part. So this is what it used to look like, right over here, on top of the mountain. This is more of what it looked like at the like closer to the airstrip in the middle of winter.
And did they ever say exactly what it was that they were doing? Like, because I can see in those photos that there are barracks and all that. Did they ever sort of say, okay, like each installation has a particular function? Did they ever explain that back in the day?
For this thing, it was just we had our state was we weren't a state then, so it doesn't officially count for World War II, but we were invaded by the Japanese during World War II. And so, and we always had the threat from Russia because we're right next door. And so we just had this early warning system that's been developed, and it's still in play right now because now the threat is Russia and China and North Korea and anyone else who wants to come over the top of the world to try and bomb something, I guess. So they had their own power station there. This is inside the power station. Uh, these are some photos that I just grabbed from that Radomes website. And so this guy right here uh, was cool enough to post some of these photos from inside the power station. So this isn't in the pyramid. This is just the power station for the Air Force Station. We have photos of dogs. These aren't attack dogs or anything. I'm sure they, what? Uh, but I mean, this would indicate that there are dogs. They had a pool hall. Uh, they had a theater. Here we have some cargo planes. Um, and one looks like it's unloading some sort of, uh, I don't know, maybe that's a snowplow or something. I don't know what that's supposed to be. We have a bunch of machinery. We have some of the facilities that have been listed in some of the interviews. We have tanks. We have uh, just a looks like some sort of warehouse. And this would be on top of the mountain because you see that dome in the back. Looks like a golf ball kind of dome. We have more planes. These are the domes that I was talking about. These house the radar systems. And in the interview with Pearson, he's when they went out in that helicopter, they mentioned that they went out and there was like jets following them, military jets. And so this is from 76 or 77, and that's probably the same type of military jet that was out there following them. And then we have some VIPs here visiting the site. Oh, is that it? That's it. That's the end of my little presentation. um, I can return the screen to you, and here we go. So yeah, so what I did, I can't hear you.
Sorry,
Oh,
it's excellent. Sorry, I shut myself off, but it's very very interesting because it seems that I mean I don't know the information that you're saying is there, and so but then my question is why are then people constantly back and forth talking about Mount Denali, Mount Hayes, Mount Denali, which is why I felt it might have been a disinformation thing to sort of pull people away from the actual topic because if it was there, what's happening? Like people are not seeing that it's at near Indian Lake, or near Indian River, I think it's called.
Indian River.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why people aren't looking at it through a different perspective. I mean, they hear east, and they don't pay attention to the northeast portion. Um, and also, I think people don't understand how big the Yukon River is. Uh, at some points, yeah, it's like a couple miles wide. You know, it's it's a really big river, and if you had to come across it, you would probably go, yeah, we had to cross the Yukon River because it's such a prominent river. Uh, and it just doesn't even get mentioned. So,
Yeah, I find that interesting. Yeah.
and and that's one of the things. Like, it wasn't. No one said, "Oh, we didn't pass over the Yukon River." It just wasn't mentioned. So you kind of have to look at what is absent from the interviews as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that's pretty interesting. Now, if we were going to start talking about how this started, so we talked about how China had detonated this nuclear weapon in '92, and that it rippled throughout the crust, the mantle of the planet, which is scary to me because I'm thinking, what the hell are they doing? And seismologists were able to use that and to correlate that data to see that there was a pyramid underneath the ice. Now, I also saw some of those presentations and some of those interviews, and they were talking about how I think it's Marty Pearson. I'm not sure if that's the guy from the father of Mr. Pearson, who was working in the. I think he was there working in the 40s. He was working at Bell Labs, and I think that he talked about it. But so it's been going on for quite a while, and I think this is the part that I find very interesting, is that I remember being so much into like UFOs and pyramids and all that kind of stuff as a kid growing up, and I mean I'm dating myself, but like I mean for the longest time, and I can honestly say that I only heard about the Alaska pyramid maybe in the last, I guess since 2012. What
Yeah.
happened? Why was it? How was it that it was so hidden for such a long time? What's going on?
Uh, that's about the same time that I heard about it too. So people just kind of kept quiet, I guess. It, people, okay, so I've reached out to a bunch of people regarding uh, you like some other UFO related things in Alaska, and the feedback that I would get from people using the rosters from radomes, um, and inquiring about UFOs on radar that they would capture. Um, Most of them said they weren't allowed to talk about it. Uh, they wouldn't confirm or deny it. They would just be like, I can't talk about it. I signed this thing way back when, and I just can't talk about it. It's part of my contract that I had with the military. And people were just really close-lipped about it. And some of them said, don't inquire about it. You'll get people looking at
Mm-hmm.
you if you start inquiring about it.
Okay.
So
Wow.
um,
So.
I think it was just a different generation of people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Hey, I signed this thing, and that's I did that, so I'm just going to comply with it."
Okay. Well, it also
Yeah.
sounds that people were also being threatened as well, because if I understand correctly, when Doug Muchler started working for the military back in 1989, he was he said, because I think it started for him when they were watching a like he I think he had seen a map of Alaska. And it's funny because if you look at the map of Alaska, I don't see any area that's sort of like faded out. But it seems that he said that when he first looked at the map of Alaska, it said that there was a part that said, this part not surveyed, even though all of
Oh,
Alaska had been surveyed. You know what I mean?
no, actually,
No?
there are parts of Alaska that still aren't fully surveyed,
Oh,
just
really?
because it's so remote. They have a general picture of it from satellite images and stuff now, but there are still areas in Alaska that haven't seen boots on the ground just because it's so remote.
Wow.
It's just almost impossible to get to some of these places.
Wow, that's pretty crazy because I'm sort of showing a copy of the map right now, and I mean, it seems, I guess you have to sort of look at, much more deeply at the map, right? Because I mean, I was just sort of showing a map for the audience, and it seems that there is definitely some. I mean, it looks pretty much surveyed, but I guess it's when you get deeper into it, right? Like, I mean, are there what are the certain areas that are not surveyed? Is it the area that you were talking about, the Indian River, or?
No, Indian River would have been surveyed because the military was there.
Okay.
And then there is a tiny little village that's right outside of Indian River called Hughes. If anyone wants to look up Hughes, Alaska,
Mm-hmm.
Hughes.
Okay. Is that in the south or the north? Where, what part of Alaska is that in?
Um, this would be it's considered to be in northwest Alaska, but
Okay.
in the kind of the southeast part of northwest, if that makes any
Okay.
sense. Uh, it's
And
because
what's
it's
happening
really
in
close
Hughes?
to still being in the interior.
Yeah. And what's
Uh,
happening in Hughes exactly?
Hughes is just a support area that was developed because of Indian River, and there was also just kind of a native village there, um, and it's just a little village that's out
Okay.
there. Yeah,
Perfect. Yeah. Now, when Doug Muchler was speaking, I know that he talked about how when he was in the service, I think it was '92, they had watched I guess it's Alaska News or something, and they were watching a program. It was a 6 o'clock news, and on the six
right,
o'clock news, it seems that they talked about, okay, because of the detonation that took place with China, that they were able, the seismologists were able to sort of see this pyramid underneath the ice. It was about
right.
100 feet down or 150 feet down, and that they were able to sort of see this, and that when the news was repeated again, usually like at 10 o'clock, the story was completely gone. Now he said he went to the station because he said, okay, what happened, and the story was completely scrubbed. So it seems that the men in black kind of went there and did that. Now I
We
don't
do have
know.
a history of Men in Black in Alaska.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
really?
um, and I think I think it's like the 5004th AISS basically is operating out of Alaska, and I think they're the ones tied to the Men in Black up here.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so that's hardcore. Um, so getting to the pyramid itself, I think that the meat of of what we're talking about. So and it's interesting because you've provided us with a different perspective in terms of the location and where it could
Right.
be, and that's very, very interesting because I think it gives people food for thought as to where it could actually be. Now, do you have also different information on the actual pyramid itself and what it could be made of, or what it's doing there,
No, I've just been going off of the interviews from that Linda Moulton Howe
Okay.
uh, has provided have provided, and yeah, all I did was just kind of follow the money,
Okay.
because if you have people and you have infrastructure, uh, and you have dogs, you know, and you have a landing strip and stuff, like there's just a lot of like I said, payroll and maintenance and just operational costs, and you have to bring in food, and I don't know if they have to bring in water. They probably have like a well system, uh, but there's stuff that has to be brought in, and if it's at one of these Air Force stations with the radar sites, they could easily say, "We're going to put a site here," and then tuck that extra money under that, because that's just how the military kind of does stuff. That's how they hide things. You have a weird location, okay, put a base there and call it an Air Force station, and now you can fund money to it because it's under this other designation, and then
Yeah.
maybe it's overhead costs
Yeah. And you
or
know what?
something.
It sounds a little bit, I'm getting sort of like the Area 51 vibes off of this. And that, they have Area 51 there, and they have a private airport, I think, and near the Las Vegas airport, and that people fly on these unmarked planes and are flown over into Area 51, and they're flown back and all that kind of thing. And
Is it
yes,
Travis Sierra,
it's
I think?
very clear that they have that they have a landing strip, but then there's certain aspects of it that are separate. And so it sort of seems that that's sort of, so I get what you're saying. They're trying to sort of hide that, and it's true, follow the money and see where that's going. But it's also follow the unmarked cars or follow the unmarked planes, you know,
Right.
that are going down there. You know what I mean?
And what like this Air Force station, it just kind of fits the bill with not just with one interview, but like multiple interviews.
Okay.
So, and that's why I'm thinking that this might be the correct answer. And this might also be why people just haven't been able to find it
Okay.
because it's still considered active
Yeah.
and you can't just go there.
Yeah.
You can't go there.
Yeah.
And also the elevation, uh, let's see here. Let me go back through my sites real quick.
Okay.
The elevation at this site.
Well, you know what? What's interesting about
I just
what's
made that.
interesting? Sorry, did you find a slide?
Um, I did.
Okay.
I just have to try to minimize
But you
this.
know
Oh, there we
what?
go.
Yeah. So what's interesting about the whole thing is that actually, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask. Now, do people, especially people living within the whole Alaska Triangle, do they ever hear any kind of like tones or any kind of weird sounds? Because I know that there are certain areas in the Southwest where they have underground bases and underground bunkers, and people talk about hearing these weird humming noises and tones, and that they can't sleep at night because they're always hearing all these noises and all that kind of stuff, and it sort of bothers them because it's a very, very deep, sort of penetrating tone. Is there anything like that that's happening in Alaska?
Th- There
Because
are
it seems to fit
two
with these
things
underground
that
bases.
there are two notable things. Okay, so uh, I'll get to that in just one second.
Sure.
I just wanted to mention that the elevation at the top of Indian Mountain is uh, 1,273 meters.
Okay.
So that would be enough to go underground for this pyramid thing.
Fair enough.
Okay. So for these noises, there is something called sky trumpets, that kind of phenomenon, and it people hear it in like the middle of the night or sometimes during the day, and it almost sounds like a weird mechanical sound, uh, or maybe like a grinding sound, uh, or metal. I don't. It's a weird sound when you hear it, and you can't quite put your finger on it, uh, but it's there.
Okay.
And people in Anchorage and the Matsu Valley, like Wasilla, Palmer, uh, they hear it. We don't really get that up here in Fairbanks,
Okay.
but in Fairbanks, we do get a lot of people who get uh, monthly migraines, and it's usually tied into when they operate. We had an observatory here called uh, HIPAS, HIPAS,
Okay.
and then uh, we have HARP, and HARP is based on a lot of the HIPAS stuff.
Okay.
So one was run by UCLA, and then the other one, HARP, is the big one that's at a place called Gakona, which is right outside of uh, Fort Greely, which is a missile defense site. Um, they were run by a conglomerate of military places, and then the University of Alaska Fairbanks bought it up after the military kind of gutted it.
Okay.
But they still do a lot of atmospheric research, aurora research, that sort of thing. I know at one point they bounced a laser off the moon and they tracked that, and then they bounced a laser off of Jupiter and tracked that
Okay.
from HARP.
Oh.
But whenever they turn on HARP, they used to have like some sort of online thing where they would like be like, "Hey, we're going to be operating at this, between these times," and when they did that, people would get migraines.
Okay, wow. That's pretty interesting because I know that harp has a very, very long history. And there's a lot of, I mean, that's a whole other presentation on itself, harp, and how harp is a very, very high level weapon, if you will, that is being used by the United States government. And some people say that with HARP, you can actually change the weather, you can do a whole bunch of stuff, and including you can, create sort of images or visions with a harp. And so, but that's a whole other topic for another day. But
Yeah.
that does explain a lot. Now, one of the things that if we go back to so now we're going to start talking about the pyramid itself, because I think that that's sort of the more interesting thing about this whole thing, and that the pyramid. Now we have to sort of travel back to 1973. And in 1973, that was when they had the Stanford Research Institute was doing a program, Operation Stargate, and they
Right.
were working with a lot of remote viewers. And one of the
With
remote,
and partnering with the CIA.
I'm sorry,
And partnering with the
and
CIA.
partnering with the CIA, exactly. And and I mean, if you watch Stranger Things,
Yeah.
you know how the CIA was doing all kind of nonsense and craziness. So that sort of, but the whole point about that is that they were working with remote viewers. And
Yeah.
remote viewers, for those of you who don't know, remote viewing is the ability to sort of take your consciousness from your body into other areas, into other places in time, by focusing on certain coordinates. So that's a very, very simplified version, but that's pretty much basically what that is. And one of the things that was done in 1973 was that they had a remote viewer called Pat Price. And Pat Price is one of the best remote viewers. I think he was from California, and he was one of the best remote
Yeah.
viewers that they ever had.
He
And
was a former police detective.
yeah, he was a former police detective. And you know what I heard
University of
about
New
him?
Mexico.
I heard that he was so good, and when he was doing his job as a police detective, and when he would, let's say, call out cars to go to certain, certain calls in terms of like crime, he knew where to send the cars. Like he could actually
Mhm.
send them ahead of time because he knew exactly what was happening before he even got the information. So that tells you, like, I mean, I talk about eyes in the sky, you know?
Yeah.
But Pat Price was really one of the best remote viewers. And one of the things that he was a part of the program, and they'd ask him, and that was obviously during the Cold War, and they would ask him questions about, weapons that were being used by the Russians, Russian installations, and all that. So he was able to sort of like, get all that information. Now, one of the things about remote viewing, even though you yourself as a remote viewer can have the control of the situation, one of the things that happens with remote viewing is that you have stuff that's called an attractor. An attractor is when a remote viewer is pulled away from the mission at hand, as it were, and he's pulled in an opposite direction. Because what I heard is that he was asked to look at some sort of coordinates in Russia, and he started, but then he was sort of pulled away, attracted somewhere else, and for some reason he went to an underground base. He started to see like you're talking about, like the concrete block, and
Mhm.
then he went down the elevator shaft, and then he pulled back and was able to see the pyramid, and was able to see that it was there with, like, with military personnel, and that there were different types of people working down there. Now, did you want to comment on that a little bit?
Uh, sure. Okay. So, yeah, one day, Pat Price, he just kind of went home the end of the week or whatever, and did this remote viewing. He came in with like, I think 7 different places that he remote viewed. And he was just kind of like, hey, man, here's some places that I did over the weekend.
Okay.
But because it wasn't through an official
Mm-hmm.
manner, they couldn't really accept it as being official.
Okay.
And in there was this Mount Hayes alien base. And it's supposed to be it's somewhere inside of Mount Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to find that on a map,
Mm-hmm.
uh, if you look over by um, Delta Junction which is right butt up against Fort Greely.
Mhm.
It's a little bit to the south and a little bit to the west of there. You have to cross the river.
Okay.
Uh, and also in that same sort of region is Harp
Okay.
is over there as well. And there really isn't anything close by Mount Hayes, but it's close enough to uh, Fort Greely that there'd be easy transportation,
Mhm.
between the two. Um, and and there are a lot of weird stories about Mount Hayes from locals.
Okay.
Just okay. So according to Pat Price, there's supposed to be humans working at this base, and there's
Mhm.
uh, I think he said like two or three different types of aliens working at this
Yeah.
base as well, and they often look like humans.
Mhm.
So uh, I've over the years I've collected a bunch of stories from
Mhm.
people, and there was this guy who was working. He was just installing internet, like Ethernet cables, at this building out on Fort Greely, and he on Fort Greely. It's one of those bases where if you're working, you have to have an armed escort. And so they had to sweet talk the armed escort into letting, because they only had the one,
Mhm.
to let one guy stay on the top floor, and then let the other guy go up on the roof to so they could feed this cable
Okay.
through the roof system. And sometimes you have to do that.
Okay.
um, so hopefully no one can pinpoint those guys out
Mhm.
of that information.
Yeah. Now,
uh,
sorry, go on.
but on the roof, while this guy was waiting for this cable to be fed up to him, he could see some hangars,
Mhm.
and he said that there was like this big cargo plane that they were like unloading, and there was a bunch of armed military guys, and they had some like jeeps backed up that had like mounted machine guns, and there was this thing that came off the cargo plane, and it had a huge tarp thing over it. And uh you know how like a bird walks, like it walks differently than a human, it's almost like backwards legs. It They said that it walks like that
Oh,
under like you could see how the legs were moving under the tarp,
and
like
are
that.
we talking about a creature
Yeah, some sort of creature.
under the tarp?
um yeah, but they said it was like at least 2 humans high.
Okay. Wow.
And
Okay.
they had no idea what it was, and they just turned around. They were like, nope, not dealing with that. And they just finished doing whatever, and they got back inside, and they didn't want to be shot
Okay.
because
Yeah. No, I
they're
can
saying
totally get that. Yeah.
that,
I heard that when
okay,
they bring in supplies, that they are held at gunpoint. Like when people were bringing in supplies, they're held at gunpoint. So clearly, they don't want anybody to find out what's
so here's
going
another
on.
thing about Fort Greely.
Hmm.
So the company that I work for, we're mechanical contractors. We do plumbing, heating, and cooling, and we have been on the missile defense uh, projects out there, like when they do their missile field expansions. And on the first missile field that they were installing, they had a big pile of money set aside because they thought they were going to hit water and they'd have to spend all this money pumping out water,
Hmm.
groundwater. And they found out that they didn't have to do that. And this is like the contractors figuring out that they didn't have to do that, whoever was doing the groundwork. So I don't know, those people made a pile of money because I mean, they got awarded that amount. Anyway,
Hmm.
um, so it's just weird how uh, it was really unexpected to be able to go down however many. I think it was like a how big is a missile? However many feet. I think it's like 75 or 100 feet or something down, and you don't run into that water table, even though there is a big river that's nearby. And you kind of think, could they run a tunnel over to Mount Hayes? And it seems like it's very possible,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Um, and then they also have airstrips on the other side of the river that's military use only. And I think some people can like land at some areas for like
Hmm.
fishing or um, land management, that kind of thing. But for the most part, there's like a lot of training area. Um, and it's just most of the area between like south of Fairbanks, you have the Tanana River, and it's like between the Tanana River and uh, the Denali Mountain Range.
Okay.
Because Mount Hayes is at one side, Denali's at the other side,
Hmm.
and
I
yeah,
guess you could have
that's
stuff in between, you could have sort of stuff in between. That makes a lot of sense. Now, I did have a one question quickly here from Lawrence Johnson. He says, so is the structure above ground or in a subterranean cavern? Now, Lawrence, what we're hearing and what the lore is talking about is that it's definitely subterranean, and that people that have remote viewed and people that have actually worked there and who have come out as whistleblowers have talked about how it's underneath the ground, and that it's very, very deep underneath the ground, and that I guess the military have found a way to sort of dig their way through that. Now, what's interesting as well, I've also heard as well that the government was working with different alien groups, and that some of these groups were humanoid looking, some were not. And I know that Pat Price talked about different alien groups that were there, but that one of the things that was interesting, and going back to Linda Moulton Howe had a woman who contacted her, and I think in 2012 as well. And this woman was saying that she was having these remote viewing type of incidents that were happening to her. She didn't understand why she was having this, and that she also went down and saw the pyramid and saw these people working together. And so it's
they have
it's interesting. It's
Napier.
not proven, obviously. It's not proven, but like I mean, it seems that other people have seen that as well. I'm not sure if you encountered that in your research.
Now, I think that was Dina Napier.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I think that was the because I'm pretty sure that's who that was.
Okay. Because she saw different groups, and she said that there were military officials that were being given a tour at the time when she did her remote view, and that the person that was hosting the tour was not human. They said it looked human-like, humanoid, but it wasn't human person. And so
Well,
I find that kind of
another
interesting.
underground base that's kind of like that would be the Dulce base in New Mexico.
Okay, exactly, like Phil Schneider. And
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So exactly. So I mean, it seems that people that have worked there have said, "Look, we the whole area is being run by these other beings, and that we're just working alongside them, and that we really are not running the show. It's really them that it's running the show, and that we're just sort of there to sort of like tag along." So that's kind of interesting, because that also I find dovetails into the idea that I know that I think even I think it was Pat Price. He did also another remote view where he saw different underground bases in different parts of the world, and he was saying that the most of these underground bases are being run by different alien groups, and that they have their own agenda as to why they're running some of these bases, and that they don't particularly care about the humans. They're there to do their job and do whatever, and that that's why they don't interfere, because they're using this as some sort of base for themselves. I'm not
Hmm.
sure how you feel about that.
Um, seeing as how, I mean,
Mhm.
seeing the way the world is at this moment,
Mhm.
I don't think I would want to show my face if I
Mhm.
was an alien. I don't know. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I like binge watched a lot of news today.
Yeah, no
So,
worries. But
uh,
mhm.
yeah,
No worries.
you know,
So,
we can't even deal with our own citizens properly and appropriately,
mhm.
and other countries like, phew, um, I don't think I'd want to be a space alien being like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Yeah,
Uh,
probably not because you'd probably like have like the shoot first, ask questions later type of reception that happens.
yeah,
But and getting back to the actual pyramid itself, it says that the pyramid was black and that it was hundreds of thousands of years old, and that when the government workers went down and they started testing the stone and they started seeing different aspects of the pyramid, that they could see that this was hundreds of thousands of years old and that this was giving out energy. Like they attached cables, they attached a whole bunch of stuff, they're doing a whole bunch of experiments and all that. And it seems that even though they're working alongside aliens, the aliens haven't really given them the full details of what's going on. But they
yeah.
know that the pyramid is giving off a lot of energy. And I think Linda Moulton Howe was told, I think by Doug Muchler, if I'm not mistaken, that this pyramid is giving off so much power that it could actually, power the whole United States
Even
without
Canada.
question. You know?
I think it was like the U.S. and Canada
Yeah,
together,
exactly.
and that's a lot.
Yeah,
Um, and then there was I want to say it was the Western Electric person, um, or their son when they were talking to Linda Moulton Howe. Uh, they mentioned like their dad making this 33-degree pyramid, or it was something like that, or 30. It was a weird
I think it was
number,
38 degrees, if I'm not mistaken.
38. It might have been something like, yeah, it
Yeah,
was something like
yeah.
that. And was talking about some sort of free energy, uh, something or other,
Hmm.
and they didn't really get too much into it.
Hmm.
Uh, and I don't, I have like a huge binder with all this information, and
Yeah,
I just have it pulled out right now.
yeah.
Um,
But you know
but
what?
yeah,
But you
it's
know what's interesting about this whole thing is that, and it can go in different directions, because I find it interesting that they now, of course, when it comes to alien technology, of course, the governments are not going to give out that information. But I also think that there are also big business, like big industry, that don't want to see this happen because you know what happened with Nikola Tesla. A
mhm.
lot of us are familiar with Nikola Tesla, and he was actually trying to do something very similar. I think at Wardenclyffe, he was trying to do something similar where he had a big tower, and he was able to sort of get in energy from the stratosphere and light up all these light bulbs and light up all that kind of stuff. So he understood
That was
that
the communication tower.
communication tower. Okay,
It was, yeah, and he actually there is a TV show out there called The Tesla Files,
okay,
and if you haven't watched it, watch it. It's super interesting.
hmm,
The Waldorf Astoria, which is where Nikola Tesla ended up passing away.
hmm.
Uh, I'm pretty sure he turned that building into another tower,
Oh, really?
and they cover all that in that series.
Okay,
It's
wow.
I think it's only one season. It might be two, but I think it's just one, and
Okay,
it's very interesting, and I highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in that. Um, the pyramid itself, I mean, the Alaska pyramid,
hmm,
um, most of what I've heard is that there's a lot of like energy distribution and stuff,
hmm.
but I think it's interesting that there was also mention of alien biology, and I don't know what aspect of that.
Okay.
And also if this was going on and maybe if there was like a some sort of government alien government agreement over this, maybe the aliens were like, "Hey, we'll give you this computer chip, something that maybe they thought was low stakes, to give to us, and we just had no idea what they were dealing with. Maybe they shot us a line about something as and they're just like, oh yeah, it's really nothing, it's just this thing, and if you let us do this, we'll give you like this cool little chip, and it'll you'll have this cool technology. I mean, I could see that as a way to get the government to work with you, is some sort of technology exchange. I can't hear you.
But it sounds like Philip Corso. Philip Corso wrote the book The Day After Roswell. And in The Day
Yeah.
After Roswell, he talks about how the government made, I think, an agreement, agree out a treatment, a treaty, or whatever, but it was an agreement to allow to be doing experimentation with humans in
Mhm.
exchange for some of the microchips, the transistor that was very big towards the end of the 40s, and a lot of the different technology and the fiber optics and all that. So it seems that's definitely happened before, and that it's probably still happening. But I also feel that, getting back to Tesla, Tesla wanted to provide free energy for the world, but then he was obviously, some people said that he was killed. I personally think he was killed. And all his notes and papers were taken by the CIA. I find that kind of interesting. But I,
Well,
I think
one
it's
of the
big
people in
business.
charge of that was Donald Trump's uh, father or grandfather,
Oh,
something like that. Yeah, kind of interesting, huh?
Donald Trump or Bush? Because I know Vannevar Bush, who is the grandfather of the Bushes there. He was also, he was the head of the CIA, I think, right?
Yeah, I think Trump was just one of the Trumps was just like on the team,
Okay.
so to speak.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, it's just there's a lot of families that
Oh, yeah.
they've had their fingers in the government for a long time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the thing is, and the whole point is that it's big business, big business. And Lawrence made a good point. He said, and he was talking about Tesla because Tesla wanted to provide energy. And he says, investors pulled funding when they learned that they couldn't meter and charge for it. And it's true. We could have had free energy long time ago. We didn't have to have fossil fuels. We didn't have to have anything. We also, we could have had this very clean energy. And it's big business that has actually bought out patents and have had people killed because they don't want any kind of competition with the fact that they're making money. And so it seems, but it also goes back to the concept that, and I know that Christopher Dunn, for people who are familiar with Christopher Dunn and some of the work that he's done, and Christopher Dunn, for those of you who don't know, is I think he's an engineer, and he talked about how when he went to the pyramids in Egypt, especially the Giza pyramid, he talked about how it looked like a power plant. We just said
Yeah.
there's no tombs, there's no none of that. It seems that the way it was sectioned is that it looked like a power plant, and he's proven a lot in his works. He's done live experiments that it was probably a power plant. And I remember reading about that, let's say about a good 20, 25 years ago, and thinking, okay, that's kind of interesting, it's kind of cool, but whatever. And now that we're discovering a lot of pyramids in different parts of the world, and we're seeing how they're all pretty much built the same way, I feel that these pyramids are definitely have to do with being a power source. And I think that Pat Price or the woman Miss Napier talked about how these pyramids were used to power UFOs. And that this is the reason why we see a lot of UFOs flying over Alaska, because they're going for like the stop off at the gas station, as it were, before heading off. And it's not the first time I've heard that
Yeah.
pyramids are such a way, and especially with the kind of material that they're made, that they can be used as power plants. And now that we're finding out all this kind of stuff, I find that now more than ever it makes sense to me. I don't know if that makes sense to
And
you, but it makes sense to me
I
that they're power plants, they're not tombs.
I think that Mount Hayes might be the same way,
Okay.
maybe just more up to date. so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, okay, so if you follow the highway um, south of Mount Hayes, you'll hit Glen Allen, and then it goes over. I think what is that? The Glen Highway,
Mm-hmm.
and that connects over to the Palmer area and stuff. And along that highway, there have been so many sightings of like huge UFOs, like
Mm-hmm.
mothership
Yeah.
UFOs.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it might be because of Mount Hayes.
Oh.
And according to a lot of locals, every once in a while, um, you'll see um, the side of the mountain open up and
What?
things kind of fly in and out. And then there will be smoke every once in a while or something that comes out. And Mount Hayes is not an active volcano or anything.
Okay.
And at one point, okay, this sounds really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, there were these two guys out snow machining in that area, and they stopped because one of them wanted to take a smoke break.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw some military guys, like armed military guys, leading and like
But like a
I guess
UFO.
I guess you could just say leading some Bigfoot who were chained together, hauling something into the mountain.
Oh my God.
That it's like the craziest thing
That is kind of
that I've
crazy.
ever heard.
Wow.
And we got, Sarah, I was with a bunch of people, and we got that story out of one of the seasonal lodges
Mm-hmm.
along the Denali Highway.
Okay. But this thing of the mountain opening up and everything, what is that about? That's crazy. What's that?
Yeah, uh, they say that ships go in and out, like
Okay.
UFOs go in and out.
Okay. Wow. And so another thing that I wanted to also discuss is the fact that it's a black pyramid. And I don't know, the way they described the pyramid and the type of stone and all that. Why am I, and I don't know, maybe I'm just, thinking out loud here, but why do I feel like it's made out of shungite? Why do I feel that it's made out of a certain sort of stone like shungite? I mean, I don't think it's black obsidian because black obsidian would be more sort of like, shiny and all that. But I think that shungite, I think, has some sort of properties that can be conductive, like kind of like the crystal that the Giza pyramid is made out of a certain amount of like crystal
Right.
stone. And so it makes a good conductor. Do you know anything about what the actual pyramids would have been made of, like the Black Pyramid in Alaska, what it might be made of?
I, I don't, but I can tell you that we have a lot of granite up here.
Okay.
And I mean, we have a lot of gold as well.
Okay.
Um, so we have a lot of granite, and that can look white. That can look kind of like salt and pepper,
Mm-hmm.
and it can look kind of like a dark charcoal color,
Okay.
which isn't quite black, but you could consider that black.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I'm not really sure what kind of stone it is, but we have a lot of there are mountains around here,
Okay.
but they're like the glaciers used to roll through, and so they
Mm-hmm.
left all these like stone deposits on the top of these
Mm-hmm.
dome mountains
Mm-hmm.
around here. They're kind of like lower dome mountains. They're not like rocky, craggy top um, mountains. If that makes if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Um, at one point, I was in New Jersey, and they're like, "Hey, we're on a mountain," and I was like, "What are you talking about? There's still trees." So,
Mm-hmm.
um, just so people have a point of reference, the when I say mountain, I'm usually referring to a thing that has like a tree line where
Okay.
the trees stop growing. And so around here in the Fairbanks area, um, we used to have glaciers going through, and they left stone deposits and stuff.
Okay.
And it almost looks like castles or something, old structures on top of these mountains, and it's just left over from the glaciers or something.
Okay. But yeah, you know what's interesting is that the
All those
pyramids.
are all those are black.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Now, what's interesting is that the pyramids in Egypt are actually made of granite. They are made of granite, and it seems that granite is also a very good conductor. But I was reading up just a minute ago, looking at shungite, and shungite has a high carbon content and electrically conductive. It's a very highly electric conductive type of material. And I just didn't know why I sort of saw that. So maybe you have a lot of black granite up there, and so maybe that's what that is. But
It's very possible. I think we have some shungite up here as well.
yeah,
I know we have a lot of hematite
yeah,
as well. Uh, and so that has magnetic properties, right?
yeah,
That has
exactly.
some iron.
Absolutely. It's very magnetic. So I think that looking at this whole thing, I feel that after the research that I've done, and maybe you've come up with different ideas, but after the research that I've done, that the Alaska pyramid is not something that is sort of isolated on its own, and by that I mean it is a part of a system of it's an electrical power plant that was a part of a system that existed thousands of years ago. Maybe by the time, a lot of people are speculating by Atlantis times. When Atlantis was around, we had a very, very different planet. And that the technology that they had back then was far in excess of what we have now. We're really just sort of scratching the surface. And that the pyramids, and again, I reiterate that pyramids are found around the world, and that these pyramids were power plants, and that the Alaska period is just one of many. And the fact that they're actually finding that it gives off energy means it's one of the active ones. It's probably still active as opposed to the other ones, like, for example, the ones in Giza, which are inactive. Like sometimes you have, for example, like you see, if you go to Chernobyl, you're going to find inactive nuclear plants, you know, but in other parts of the world, they're active. But it's the same kind of
Right.
structure. It's the same kind of technology. Nuclear power plants are some are taken offline and some are still working. So I don't know. For me, the more I look at it, the more I see that this is and it's still operating, and they're still seeing a lot of UFOs. So it's still operating, meaning that it's still servicing a lot of these different UFOs. I don't know how you feel about that. If it's just me rambling on, or
I think maybe it's still kind of active,
yeah.
but maybe uh, they aren't. I don't know if they're really sure how to utilize it all the way. I think we would see a lot more technology advances if they had a better understanding of it. So maybe they just don't quite understand how it works all the way. Um, and there's some sort of knowledge gap,
Okay.
and that's why we're not seeing that kind of technology in other aspects. Because what it is, it's some sort of higher technology.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And I think that this technology, along with sort of sound technology, is something that existed long 10,000, just before the fall of Atlantis and before the Younger Dryas. So the Younger Dryas is that whole period where the water rose very, very quickly and basically flooded most of the planet. And I think that Graham Hancock did a very, very interesting documentary on it about the Younger Dryas period, about how there were meteors that fell to Earth, and they melted a lot of water very, very quickly, and that water sort of flooded. And it was after the Ice Age. And so there is a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of evidence for that. And that there's a lot of evidence that this technology existed, because if you look at some of the things that existed in ancient Egypt, they have a lot of different types of machinery, and you look at how the early pyramids were built, they're completely flawless. Like they're completely cut and flawless without any problem. Same with Pumapunku in South America. The blocks are completely cut and with 90-degree angles. And how are people doing that? As the scientists say, well, they're doing using copper tools. Really? You know what I mean? Like, no, there was definitely a. I think if you pull everything together, the pyramids, Graham Hancock's work, Christopher Dunn, and you start to sort of build you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together and see that this is technology that existed at least 10,300 years ago. I don't know.
There was that geologist who was looking at the Sphinx.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Uh, and he determined from the wear and tear on the
Yeah.
Sphinx.
Robert Schoch, I think, is, if I'm not mistaken.
That I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
I know what he looks like, and I don't recall his
Yeah,
name
it's
at all.
Robert Schoch. Yeah. And he worked
Uh,
with, what's his name, the other scientist as well. And they talked
he's
about
been
that.
on aliens quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, the Sphinx, or whatever the Sphinx was before it was
Mm-hmm.
the Sphinx. I think it might have been like a giant lion or something.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, is a lot older than what we expect it to be.
Exactly.
And if we want to tie that back into back into the Alaska Pyramid
Mm-hmm.
stuff, there is one interview that Linda Moulton Howe had
Mm-hmm.
from a military guy who was running a. They were out training at the Black Rapids Training Center, uh, which is off of Kastner Creek Glacier, and they kind of like go out there and do like survival
Mm-hmm.
stuff out on the glacier, and they came across some sort of sphinx up in a mountain.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's really weird. But
Okay.
that's in those files. If
Mm-hmm.
anyone wants to go to earthfiles.net
Yeah.
and search for that article,
Mm-hmm.
you can take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like $5 for a month for
Okay.
access to that site or something like that. It's not
Yeah.
very expensive.
Yeah. But Dr. Schoch, Robert Schoch, was working with John Anthony West. And John Anthony West was talking about the Egyptian pyramids and about the technology as well, within the pyramids. But one of the things that they talked about, and they showed a picture to many, he did a trick where he took a picture of the Sphinx and covered the top and just showed the bottom of the wear and tear on the Sphinx. And a lot of scientists were like, yeah, 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 that's water erosion. Yeah, no, no problem. And then he pulled off the top and he was like, oh, oh, because it shows that when was the last time that there was water of that amount in Egypt? And it was like
Right.
definitely before the, it wasn't 2,000 years ago. It was definitely 10,000, 15,000 years ago when they had all that water. So,
Yeah.
the more, I think if you were looking at this 20, 25 years ago, you would be sort of isolated with your information because you'd be like, well, okay, this is kind of interesting, but you don't really see the connection. And so there's that mystery, that sort of mystery that hangs over everything. But I can tell you right here and now, and having done this show for a while now, and when I look at all the pieces and everybody's coming up with all this information, you just bring it together, it makes sense. We had a highly developed civilization. I don't care who you are, but we had Atlantis, we had Lemuria, we had Mu, we had Agartha, for those of you who want to talk about that. And this
This
was a highly advanced civilization. Atlantis is real. And that the Alaska pyramid, even though it's up in Alaska and all that kind of stuff, it's a part of this whole system.
well, and
You know?
also I think uh, I think there was a shift in the access
Yeah, exactly.
access at some point because yeah, I just think that's how it had to have been um, for things to be built like the Alaska pyramid, you know.
Absolutely. And I think that
And
explains, for example, you were talking about the shift in the axis. I think that explains how Antarctica also lost its, say, with everything was sort of in a deep freeze because
yeah,
they
I think
found
there's
like you know,
I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that's under the ice.
Absolutely. So I wanted to know if we can do some calls. If anybody wants to call into the show, we are going to post the phone number right at the top. So if you want to call in and if you have some questions and some comments, I would love to hear from you guys. So just sort of call in and is the number up? Yeah, we're going to put the number up. So, because I know that we've seen some interesting comments here in the chat, and Lawrence is saying Dr. Shock, a geologist, is known for his controversial theory about the Great Sphinx of Giza, as much older than the conventionally believed, the 2,500 that we talked about, and that it dates back 9,000, 12,000 years ago. Absolutely. Lawrence, that's for sure. And like I said, and I feel that someone that Graham Hancock has methodically and very, very meticulously done his research. And you can find the documentary on Netflix, and he explains it to you. He shows you the actual dates. He shows you what was happening, and the thing is, it's based on science because we know that there was a Younger Dryas period. This is science. And so that is the time when, as well, and I think that when Robert Schoch was working with John Anthony West actually pulled back the calendar many, many thousands of years. And he said, based on how the Sphinx was looking at its own reflection in the night sky, and you were talking about it being a big lion, it would have had to have been 10,000, 12,000 years ago. And that when he talks about certain aspects of the calendar, it goes back even further. So that these are civilizations that were there thousands of years ago. And for some reason, it seems, and if I had to sort of make an understanding of why we hide this information, it's because of control. It's about control. People want to control this information. And as far as I'm concerned, I think they've already discovered the chamber underneath the Sphinx, the right paw of the Sphinx, and all that. And they have this information. Zawi Hawass is a big fat asshole. Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't like Zawi Hawass. He's really sort of stupid. But anyways, pardon my language. But he's hiding this information, and this information is definitely there, and that. At least recently, they've discovered these different underground caverns. These Italian scientists discovered these long shafts, and again, it looks like this was again a part of a power plant. So, as far as I'm concerned, this information is coming out more and more, and it just seems to me that it's just clear, and the pyramid and the Alaska pyramid is a part of that, you know.
And also, if there's one Sphinx, usually there's a second.
Exactly.
They're usually depicted as a pair.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I think that's kind of interesting because people have theorized where a second Sphinx might be located in Egypt, and they just won't look.
Exactly. I have an interesting comment here from Lawrence Johnson. He says, Hancock, we have amnesia. Humanity as a species has forgotten its true origins and history, losing knowledge of advanced ancient civilizations. And you're absolutely right, Lawrence. But the thing is, and the only caveat with that, what you're saying, Lawrence, is the fact that we've discovered parts of our ancient history. And those aspects, when scientists or archaeologists, specifically archaeologists, start to discover artifacts or fossils that go against the scientific model of how long we've been on this earth, they are shut down, they are discredited, they're no longer able to get grants and all that. There's a lot of different types of artifacts that we have found that prove that, we have had high civilization on this planet, and that's just hidden. Okay, so you're right. Yes, we have a certain amount of amnesia, but that amnesia is being imposed by science. And it doesn't mean that I knock science altogether, but I'm just saying that the scientists don't want to change their model, and they don't want to open up to different ideas, and they don't want to look at different aspects of what we were in the past, and they just want to keep the certain model that is there, and they want to ignore all the other information, all the findings that they have. You know what I mean? I don't know. And the same thing with the Alaska Pyramid. Why are they hiding that? What's going on?
It's also like the giant skulls that they have found. Uh,
Exactly.
they have them tucked away in museums and stuff, but they never put them out on display because
Exactly.
they don't know how to present it to the public.
Exactly.
And people, I think they're afraid that it's going to freak people out. I think that's just kind of what it
Hi, good
boils down
evening.
to.
This is Lawrence. I just wanted to call in. Yeah, sure. Take your time, please. Thank you.
So we actually got a phone call, and it's Lawrence, and Lawrence has been giving us some really, really good information. So, Lawrence, did you want to ask a question this evening to Jessie?
Yes, thank you.
Jessie,
Yes,
can you hear?
good evening.
Can you hear him talking?
Yeah.
Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
all right, thank you. Great presentation. Thank you for putting this on this evening. One of the things I wanted to ask is kind of a nuts and bolts question regarding the her map. And I was wondering, did you ever taken the time or were you aware of the Alaskan magnetic anomaly map that's available online to see if it correlates with anything that you discovered? That was one of the things I wanted to mention. And you're also 100% correct about Graham Hancock. And I don't disagree. I believe that collectively, as a civilization, we've forgotten a lot. And it's very neat that we're learning this stuff. It's a very interesting time to be around. So anyway, that was my main question. It was about the magnetic anomaly map that's available online. But anyway, great presentation. Thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing more. Thanks.
I have not checked my map against the magnetic anomaly map.
Okay.
So I forgot to do that. In fact, I forgot about that map until he mentioned it. So
Okay. Wow.
I'll have to do that.
Okay.
Or if someone wants to take a look, the Indian River Air Force Station. There we go.
Can you tell us a
maybe
bit
they can.
more about that map? Do you know what that map is about? I've never heard that. What are we talking about? Sorry.
There's a map out there that has it just maps magnetic anomalies around the state, and there's a few different ways to go about viewing it. Different options that you can look at and stuff. And sometimes there's like magnetic anomalies in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty interesting.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And so we can find this map online, or are you able to pull that up by any chance?
Yeah, I think I have it right here. Isn't it?
Yeah. So if anybody else wants to call in, Lawrence, if you want to call in, I think I by mistake I hung up on you. I'm sorry. So if anybody else wants to call in, or Lawrence, if you want to call back, feel free. I love the live calls. I think that the live calls are great, and just sort of a great chance to sort of like speak directly with our guests. So feel free to call us, guys. The number is at the top, and let us know what your questions or comments are. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have it somewhere, and I don't know where I put it.
Yeah. I know.
So
I know. I'm gonna start.
for it.
Yeah. So
There,
I'm
there.
gonna start looking. Oh, we have another call. So I'll let you look at that.
Hi, it's me again, Lawrence. Sorry about that. I didn't want to hog the time. No. I had hung up because I wanted to give someone else a chance to call in. But yeah, I just dropped the link of the map that I was speaking of in the chat. Okay.
Hi, Lawrence.
Hi, hello again.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't want to take up all the time. I thought maybe there were other callers in the queue.
Okay.
But yeah, I dropped the link to the map I was referring to in the chat.
Okay.
So if you cut and paste or copy and paste it, you should be able to see it.
Okay. So if did you? I don't think I can pull that up here, but because I'm all sort of covered in cables here. But can you tell us? But can you give us a little bit more information as to why you wanted to see this map, Lawrence? What's inspiring you about this map in particular?
Well, some time ago, I had heard about this anomaly, and there's similar anomalies actually on the moon.
Okay.
It's certain craters, and it made me think about Arthur Clarke's 2001, where there were structures hidden underground, and they were identified by magnetic anomalies that you normally wouldn't see. And you know, the USGS has these maps available, I think, as Ms. Desmond had mentioned, but you know, you would take a little time to overlay, you know, those maps and to see whether or not there was like a correlation. I thought this might be a good way to confirm independently with her work that she's done to see whether or not there are correlations with the location of the pyramid to these to this anomaly, magnetic anomaly map. But anyways, sorry about that. It was a little long-winded, but I wanted to just get her take if she had you know, done or heard about it. It's a little bit much to try to do it on the fly right now, but I just wanted to mention it.
Sure. Absolutely. Did you want to comment, Jessie?
I have heard of the map, and I have actually looked at it before. I didn't look at it in regards to Indian Mountain.
Oh.
Okay, thanks again. Great presentation. Great work. Yep.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yes, hi, it's me. It's Susan Johnson.
Hi.
Okay, there's two things. One, I do believe that if there's an underground DUMS operating underneath the Alaska Pyramid, that quite possibly they have an underground tunnel system running along the Alaska pipeline oil system going into the U.S. and feeding Dugway, Utah, S4, and Area 51, and Dulce, New Mexico. Correct?
Well, the Trans-Alaska Pipeline doesn't run anywhere near Indian Mountains.
Could they have had underground connecting tunnels undetected, and then it reemerges along the pipeline or something?
I haven't heard anything like that, so I can't say yes or no.
Also, the pyramid. There's several types of pyramids, and I think each pyramid system operates on a different power level and stuff. Some are made of granite, some are made of basalt, and some are made of other types of minerals, and then they have overlapping geomagnetic power grid systems, and they operate a looping portal system that are responsible for a lot of the disappearances and the national parks and stuff.
I agree with that.
So just to sort of recap on that, I find it interesting that Susan, did you want to just sort of explain a bit more about the last comment you made?
Yeah, they're different pyramids. They have they're multiple functional devices. Any alien devices have multiple functions on them.
Okay.
Some of them create streamers in space that'll connect the neutral currents in space to project spacecraft to those neutral currents. Some of them create power. and some of them will also operate a looping portal system that's standardized in the Earth grid.
Mm-hmm. And Susan, do you feel that based on what I was talking about, that these are definitely like a part of a larger power system, like across the world?
Yes, like I said, a geomagnetic power grid system,
Mm-hmm.
which means it could very easily operate off of the Earth's power.
Okay.
And what that is, that they talk about the ionosphere and the stratosphere,
Okay.
and the Earth itself. They're oppositely charged. So if you create a current, or if you create a line connecting from the ionosphere to the Earth, you are creating a circuit, a closed circuit where the current can flow from the ionosphere to the ground. And that was the principle behind Nikola Tesla's ability to tap energy from the atmosphere. That's what it means. Is that you got two opposite. You got one sphere that's charged positive, which is the Earth, and you got the other shell sphere, which is the upper ionosphere, which is negatively charged. And when you create a streamer going from that, like lightning, or like a rod or a lightning rod, or even an energy beam, you can create a closed circuit. You can channel the energy from the atmosphere to the Earth and vice versa. And you can tap into that power to have the free power. Well, the pyramids operate in the same principle.
Wow, that is really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Susan. Jessie, did you want to comment on that a bit about what she was saying?
There, you had mentioned something about portals as well, and
Yes.
because I'm agreeing with all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and it just made me think of Skinwalker Ranch, and also the Montauk Project. The Montauk Project, they said that they use the frequency of 1.68 gigahertz, and like over at Skinwalker Ranch, they've been getting a weird signal at 1.6. And I've been trying to suggest to them to see what would happen if they did it at 1.68, just to see what would happen. Because over at Montauk, they said that it opened up a portal. And I mean, there's a lot of Project Montauk stuff that ties into like the Stranger Things uh, story lore, basically. If anyone is familiar with
Yeah, pretty much.
Project
Yeah, the
Montauk.
Stranger Things is pretty nuts over there. The Montauk is nuts.
Yeah, and they had like a portal that they could go in and out of, and that things would come out of, uh, like black creatures or something. Um, I don't think they were people. I think they were just some sort of creatures that would come out. But
Now,
they would use a lot of children on that.
oh, okay. So that's where we're getting that whole sort of like Stranger Things type of thing with the children. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Again, tying the pieces together. But I wanted to sort of ask something, and it's sort of the dovetailing off what Susan was saying, and that is in the ancient Egyptian mythology, they talk about how the reason why they mummified and try to preserve the body of the king and his family members is because they wanted to like send the family over to Osiris in the sky, to send it to back home, as it were. And so I'm wondering if maybe this might have been a portal. You know what I mean? Like maybe this is that they were using this as portals to actually send themselves back. I don't know. What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
that's correct. The portals, wherever you see all the pyramids on the planet, there is a natural, or what you call a standing portal nearby, or a series of standing portals. Mm-hmm. Now, what they did, the reason that they were mapping and they were keeping track of all the different constellations and their positionings in space is because they had to keep track of where the portals would occur, where it would be the optimum shortest distance between that star system and the Earth if they were to open up the portal system using either the pyramids or some other kind of a geoid pattern on the Earth, like a circular hinge or something.
Did you want to comment on that, uh, Jesse? Did you want
You,
to?
I only know of one hinge that's up here in Alaska, and it's right outside of Dillingham, and which is kind of south central, in between like Anchorage and Bethel. There's a mountain called Snake Mountain, and it's like find Dillingham. You kind of go follow the road north a little bit, and you'll see like a you'll see a lake that flows into another lake, and there's at the top of Snake Mountain there is a little hinge, and you can see it on Google Earth.
Okay.
But I don't know of any other circular hinge sort of structure in Alaska. At least nothing
Well, no, I'm
that
talking
has.
about the circular hinges around the planet.
I know. Well, I mean, if we have like this underground pyramid, then I don't know. Maybe there would be some sort of hinge nearby or something.
Okay. But I find that whole thing very interesting. And I actually sort of started to think to myself, now we're talking about pyramids. And I wanted to sort of put this question out to you and maybe to Susan if she's wants to sort of take a crack at it. But we have heard through the work of Richard Hoagland that there is definitely a pyramid on Mars. Now, I know that if people have seen the movie Doom, in that movie they were able to open a portal and travel from the Earth to Mars using that portal. Would you say that if we're opening portals, that maybe that this is what was also happening, that they were able to travel from one place to another using portals? Susan, did you
Yes,
want to take a crack at that one?
yes. It's called a harmonic resonance projection system, and it's also called what they call a hyperuncoupling projection system. Those are the two systems that are frequently used by ETs. And the portal to portal system using pyramids, that is a standard form of projection, and it happens with anywhere from several seconds to several minutes. You can literally walk through a doorway to walk off the planet to go anywhere else in the universe that you want to go. The trick is to have that other designated point resonating at the same harmonic frequencies and the same standing Silicon wave field or harmonic resonance field, so it exactly matches the area where you're leaving, so that when you walk through that door frame or whatever it is, you're instantly right on the other planet. So yeah, and the Cydonia region on Mars, as per Dr. Bruce Cornett, he also found the exact same region in New York State near Pine Bush, where they also had the same Cydonia region layout in near Pine Bush, New York, which indicates that colonists from Mars also colonized Earth. So yeah, there is a direct connection.
Okay, but
and that could be set up on any planet.
And it sounds to me like we're talking about the movie Stargate. Because like, I mean, if you have a door frame, a Stargate, then, and again, they're talking about, being able to sort of like dial in, coordinates. But that makes sense because everything is vibration, right? And if you could sort of work at a certain level of vibration, I'm wondering, however, if with the pyramids you could move from parts of the planet here on Earth to other parts. I think maybe they were using it also as just like a way to travel, like we use planes. They were just able to sort of walk through a Stargate. I don't know if Jesse wanted to comment on that.
Well, I mean, they have found plants and stuff like that in ancient Egyptian tombs that were definitely from the Americas. So I think it was like they found like tobacco, and I think they found some marijuana and some cocoa leaves or something, and I forgot what program I was watching
Yeah, I know they're
about.
talking about they found I think they found like cocaine or something like that and
Yeah,
all kind of nonsense.
it,
You know.
it's kind of crazy, but um,
Yeah, yeah,
it
because what
doesn't
they're
get because
using
they
is
got around.
what
They
they
were able
call a
to go
looping
up to
portal
like
system.
Australia, and I think they were able to go up along the coast of China.
Hmm.
And I kind of wonder if they made it over to the Americas and they just kind of followed
Hmm.
coastlines, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's that too. But I definitely feel that pyramids were definitely used for more because they develop. What I'd heard is that they are able to produce so much energy that some of these side effects of all the energy that they're producing creates a portal as a side result of what the kind of work that they're doing. And that part I find interesting because it means then it sort of just puts all the technology in a different area. Now, I have here, I think Kelly Wacker was saying there is a pyramids on all planets in the moon, I believe. And the moon is another whole other, that's a whole other presentation on its own because they can be if there pyramids on the moon. I think there are, and there are definitely structures on the moon. And I think we have enough people who have worked at NASA and enough people who have seen photos and seen them scrubbed out, and different astronauts like. Yeah, Edgar Mitchell, who said, "Well, there's stuff going on there. I don't know," and that there's definitely structures on the moon. There's definitely an ancient, people that were on the moon. So that I don't doubt. But I don't know, Susan. Did you want to sort of wrap that up? Did you want to have another question, or how are you feeling?
Yeah, what she was describing, what you're describing, is called looping portals. In other words, and it explains some of the disappearances in the national parks. You walk and all of a sudden you disappear, and then you reappear several days or several weeks later somewhere else. Well, that's what you call a looping portal. And a lot of them are tied into what you call the geomagnetic power grid on the Earth. And a lot of these monuments and pyramids are constructed on different node points, NODE, node points on the
Right.
Earth where the energy can be harnessed. And sometimes what you were probably describing is what they were probably using these looping portals to project themselves and supplies from like one continent to the other, and that would explain some of the supplies that were found in like
Yeah,
Egypt.
exactly. And
And
also,
also there's that story of so, some place along the Grand Canyon
yeah,
uh, with like ancient Egyptian stuff in there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I was just about to jump on that one because it seems that the Grand Canyon has certain, and it's actually been locked down by the government. They completely closed that off, and it had a lot of ancient Egyptian artifacts. So there's that. Anyways, so did you? I think we're sort of coming close to the close of the show. I wanted to say thank you to Susan for her call and her questions. And if anybody else wants to call in, we have one. We have room for one last question. But so I just wanted to know, Jesse, where do we go from here with the pyramid? Do you feel that, especially as I keep saying, and maybe I'm wrong, but I keep saying that this is the year for disclosure. Do you feel that maybe they might reveal this, the
I
Alaska
don't think
pyramid? What
there's
do you
been
think?
enough push for this particular piece of information. Um, I think it kind of floats out there as a possible place that is practically underneath Denali or something.
Hmm.
And that's just kind of the space that it takes up. Um, I haven't really done much presenting
Hmm.
or information sharing on my Indian mountain theory. So you guys are like some of the first to really hear about it. Um, I mean, to me, it makes sense because just it fits the descriptions. that were described in the interviews, and having an Air Force station there would cover the tracks of any sort of military presence being there. Um, I don't know. It just to me it just makes sense. Uh, we don't have a lot of the we don't have a lot of like weird frivolous military sites. Like they're if they're gonna set something up somewhere, they're gonna label it as something so they can push funding there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know how else to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Everything's just really remote. And
Okay.
since you guys operate out of Canada, if you guys just think of like just the top of Canada, or, you know, like the Yukon Territory really doesn't have a ton of people in it, like low population. If you were to send someone kind of just out in the sticks, like you'd probably have some sort of setup ready to go, in case they needed to land an airplane or something. It wouldn't just be some secret thing because you have to rely on some sort of third party to get there, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a pilot or I don't know, cargo plane or
Mm-hmm.
something.
And actually, I was curious because you live in Alaska. Have you seen any kind of weirdness, high strangeness when you in your lifetime?
Oh yeah, I've seen like a lot of UFOs. I have not seen a Bigfoot, though I have found a track, but
Okay.
it was a really rainy day, and so I wasn't able to cast it. Um, I there's just been a lot of like weird stuff. Um, there was one time like my grandpa had a boat, and we'd go down to Valdez to go fishing, uh, like halibut and silvers and stuff. And I saw this thing pop out of the water, like it it almost looks like some sort of pipe uh scope thing, and then like it was just gone. But it didn't look like a real submarine sort of periscope. I don't know what it was. It was really bizarre. Um, and then here locally, in Fairbanks, there's we have Murphy Dome. Murphy Dome used to have a big Air Force station on top of it, one of these radome sites uh, for radar. And they there's this. Do you know what skijoring is? I can't hear you. Okay.
Oh, so what's that? Sorry, did you want to tell us what that is exactly?
So skijoring, it's where you go cross country skiing or Nordic skiing, um, and you have like a couple sled dogs hooked up to you, so they're kind of pulling you along, and it's called skijoring.
Okay.
And usually you have like maybe one or two dogs at the most. It, I guess it's kind of popular around here, but you don't see a whole bunch of people in town doing it.
Okay.
But there's this skijoring trail that's out there, and it's this old. Uh, it it's a really bizarre trail. Like it
I mean,
at
have you
the
seen cryptids
entrance
on
when
it,
you.
or
Huh?
have you seen cryptids or UFOs while being on that trail?
I think I saw a guy who had a gun in his pocket who just kind of stepped out of the middle of nowhere, and I don't know where he came from. I was out walking with my dog,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy came out, and he kind of had like government spook kind of. He just looks like a government spook kind of guy,
Okay.
and he was like, "What are you doing out here?" And I was like, well, I'm just walking with my dog on this trail because it's a public trail. And I was like, if I'm on your property, I can turn around and go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. And he had his hand in his pocket. I'm pretty sure he had something in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's like the only time I've really been approached.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where he came from, because there aren't any houses in that area.
Hmm.
I mean, I think there's like one property that has a house on it, uh, a little ways down the road, but I don't think I was to that property. And this guy was wearing like loafers, and I don't know where he came from.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really weird.
It is
And all
kind
I
of weird.
could think of was at the top of Murphy Dome, because I wasn't all the way to the top. Um, there was a bunch of ray domes on the top, and there was some sort of underground facility, uh, because there's pictures of it. There's pictures of this underground area, and I don't know if they had a tunnel system that came out around here. It just it was really strange.
Okay. Wow. That is strange, especially a guy walking around in his loafers. Who knew? Anyway.
I mean, he had like uh, what was that? In the 80s they had like, it was almost like a windbreaker jacket.
Okay.
I want to say it was like a club jacket. It was like that was like the name of it. It was like club something or
Okay.
um anyway, he had like this windbreaker jacket on, and it was just, it seemed so weird because it just seems so uh to me, I just associate that kind of coat with like uh the 80s the 80s or maybe the early 90s or something. And it was, this happened in kind of the earlier 2000s, like maybe 2010 or
Okay.
something.
Okay. Well, he guess he was sort of out for a walk, out and about. In any case, I wanted to just say thank you so much, Jessie. I think we're sort of drawing to a close. I want to just say thank you, Jessie, for coming out tonight and for presenting on our inaugural episode here for 2026. I felt that we explored a lot of different things, and we explored a lot of different ideas tonight. And I think, I mean, I know I'm kind of settled in my opinions, but I think that the Alaska Pyramid is just one of many pyramids that are going to come up. And I think more people are going to find out about it. And it's definitely, it's definitely a part of something bigger on this planet. And I think that it's a part of our history. As Graham Hancock talks about, we have a collective amnesia. Thank you, Lawrence. But I think that it's also about, we're learning slowly but surely about our ancient history. And I think that the Alaska Pyramid is a part of that. So I wanted to say thank you again for coming on the show and talking about that and giving us more information about Indian River and other areas that could house the Alaska Pyramid. So thank you again. And I don't know if you wanted to sort of add any kind of last minute comments. How do you feel?
Um, no, I think you kind of covered it.
Yeah.
I when it comes to the Alaska Pyramid, since it's supposed to have a heavy government uh, presence there, I would just say find a spot that has some sort of government, presence, because that's how you're going to find it. And so that's why I decided on this Indian Mountain uh, site.
Okay.
It just fit the bill, and no one mentioned crossing the Yukon.
Okay.
So I just can't. I think if it was like right on the Yukon, they would have been like, it was right on the Yukon, because it's a huge river,
Okay.
and it wasn't mentioned. So
Okay. Well, it's good.
there's a lot of information in those interviews, and so if anyone wants to go back through them, go back through them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that you can find it on Coast to Coast AM. I think it was in 2012. Linda Moulton Howe did an interview, and she talked about some of the information that she had with Doug Muchler. So check that out on Coast to Coast AM. You can find some of I think the recordings on either Gaia, or you can find it on YouTube. So check that out. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight. I really appreciate you. And, the audience, you guys are the best. I really absolutely love you guys. And you had some great comments tonight. And thank you again for those who called into the show. It was great. And we hope to see you again for our other shows coming up this year. We are going to, and I think Jessie is going to be coming back to talk to us about cryptids later on this summer. So that'll be pretty interesting. And so thank you again, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So just sort of click down below and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That also helps us as well. And I just want to say thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you on the other side. Okay. Take care, guys.